coming up on the programme tonight. The post-Rayner reshuffle. What does the government's new direction mean for the North West? Plus, pride or prejudice? Why flying the flag became the political debate of the summer. And in memory of Brianna Ghey, is it time for a new law to ban mobile phones in schools? And joining me to discuss all of that are the Labour MP for Burnley, Oliver Ryan, Mark Roberts, the Lib Dem leader of Stockport Council, and Sean Houlston, who is the Conservative candidate in the recent Runcorn and Helsby by-election. Thank you all very much for coming on the programme. So first this evening, she was the working class champion from Stockport who became first the MP for Ashton-under-Lyne and then one of the country's most senior politicians. But a little under a week ago, all that came crashing down for Angela Rayner as the Housing Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister stepped down after failing to pay enough stamp duty on a property she bought. Her resignation sparked a major reshuffle of Keir Starmer's government, with many familiar North West names now consigned to the backbenches. 7 got the boot in total, including the leader of the House of Commons and the Employment Rights Minister. It leaves just 2 of our MPs still sitting around the cabinet table, the Culture Secretary and the Chief Whip, with the Prime Minister telling his new top team they were the right people for this stage of our journey. Though it's a journey that just today was hit by another crisis, with the US Ambassador Lord Mandelson sacked over his relationship with the late convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Oliver, we'll start with you. Bluntly, it's not been a great time for Labour. You yourself caught up in controversy this year, now 2 scandals, one week after another. What's your take on it all?
I think, look, the Prime Minister is quite clear that a year into government now, he's created phase 2 of what we now want to achieve. I think there's no hiding. There's been some really difficult decisions that we've had to take. The first year has been about putting out the fires that we were left with in terms of the prison service, the NHS, public finances. And the next phase of that is showing the country what we're going to do to deliver that change.
But in terms of those difficult decisions, Angela Rayner had a lot of sway with the backbenchers. She had that personality that made her popular with the public. Is Keir Starmer in trouble without her now?
No, I don't think so. But I think Angela is, she's an incredible figure. You heard about a life story there. I have an awful lot of time for Angela. She did the right thing, though, given what Laurie Magnus said about the circumstances. But actually, the reshuffle that Keir Starmer has just brought forward has brought some new blood into the benches. So there was some mention there of reshuffles and North West MPs. So Josh Simons is now a minister. Andrew Weston is a minister. Sam Dixon is a minister. There's some great MPs across the North West who are serving this government extraordinarily well, including Jonathan Reynolds, as you said, who's the new Chief Whip.
A big job over the next few weeks, I'm sure. Sean, let's bring you in. Those priorities Oliver mentioned, border security, growing the economy, improving the NHS, presumably people in Runcorn and Helsby are going to agree with all of those.
Well, Ollie mentions that this is phase 2, and I really dread what phase 3 and 4 are going to look like if we carry on at this rate. But the reality is, look at some of the issues in the North West, farming, for example. The people sat around that table are the same people who backed the family farm tax from day one. So I've got no hope for any of these people around the cabinet table because it's the same old Labour and they're doing the same old policies to our area.
Is it the same old Conservatives too? Because we heard the Prime Minister take a bit of a swipe at Reform UK in that first cabinet meeting. Seems like he no longer views you guys as a credible opposition anymore.
Absolutely not. We are brand new Conservatives. We have a new leader. I'm really excited for the future of the party, and we're actually making some pretty big decisions. Take immigration, for example. We're putting in the hard work. We have created a deportation bill. We are reviewing a lot of really in-depth policy out there and trying to do things right, trying to tell the truth. Rather than come up with big sweeping statements that actually we can't deliver. Well,
we'll return to immigration, I'm sure, very shortly. But what's your take on all this, Mark? Because we do know that reshuffles are a big pressure point for governments.
So they absolutely are. It's important that they don't just become about moving the deck chairs on the Titanic, though. And I think that's the thing that is going to be interesting to see with all of this. Angela Rayner, I agree with Ollie, did the right thing in stepping back. And that's quite unusual, frankly, I think, over the last few years with the amount of sleaze that came from the previous Conservative government where ministers didn't abide by the ministerial code. So it is refreshing to see that, but I've no love for Angela Rayner after what she's done to my area with regard to making us concrete over the green belt and things like that. I do wonder what difference it makes, though, having some of those North West MPs within Cabinet, not least because when I speak to people on the doorstep, the big issues of the raid on winter fuel allowances for our most vulnerable pensioners, things like that, having those MPs at the cabinet table didn't stop that work from moving ahead under Keir Starmer. So I do wonder what difference it actually makes, but it would be great to have some representation for the North.
It shines a light, of course, on who ends up replacing her as deputy party leader. Oliver, do you think that whoever gets that position should be a bit of a troublemaker?
Look, the party has a process for this position. It's a funny old position because it's not necessarily a cabinet position. It's one that supports the leadership, and it's an interesting contest that I think will come out. I don't think it's been confirmed yet, but I expect it to be a contest between Lucy Powell and Bridget Phillipson. I think both of them are incredible candidates, and we'll see a great debate that's based on the values of the Labour Party. But I will just pick up something that was just said about moving deck chairs around the Titanic. This is not the Titanic. We're a year into a landslide Labour government. This is HMS Victory, trying to achieve for this country, trying to rebuild the NHS, trying to reform welfare, trying to get our prison system sorted, trying to sort out the economy that was trashed, frankly, and trying to get this country back on its feet. And that's what we will continue to do.
Be honest, has it felt like HMS Victory over the last couple of weeks?
I'm stood on the front, I'm looking at the cannons, we're looking at the future. This is what we've got to do.
So just for those who may not quite understand what is at stake here, this is a really tough moment for Keir Starmer because he doesn't get to choose someone who has a really important role to play effectively in his party's future.
I mean, we're an incredibly democratic party. Keir has a vote like anybody else has a vote, right? And I think there's something special about the Labour Party in that sense. As I say, Angela was an incredible deputy leader. She brought her own personality to this, and I'm sure the next role holder will bring that same personality. But I think what everybody wants to see is a deputy leader that will support the Prime Minister, support the government, and really unite our party to take the fight to reform the Tories and everybody else that's holding back this country.
Well, say what you like about Angela Rayner. She was a big election winner. Are you a bit relieved to see her go?
So I'm relieved to see her go from the fact that, as I say before, I found it quite frustrating with the agenda that has been pushed by her in that office with regard to forcing local authorities to concrete over the green belt. So I'm content to see her go there, but I think it will be interesting what the result of the Labour deputy leadership contest churns out. But as I say, it does feel like the Titanic. It feels like it's not just one iceberg that Keir's been driving the ship headlong into. It's been iceberg after iceberg after iceberg.
Sean, we talk about northern representation at the heart of government. How much do people in Runcorn and Helsby care about this, do you think?
I think people want to feel like their area is represented, especially around, that important cabinet table. But really, like I say, it's about the issues and, some of the issues like farming, like immigration. Labour are clearly failing on that. So again, I agree with Mark. It is a bit like shuffling the deck chairs around the Titanic, really. It doesn't matter who you've got in what position. It's still Labour. It's still Keir Starmer making these choices. He has chosen to water down the voice of the North West around his cabinet table, and he keeps making poor choices because he's just a weak Prime Minister.
Feels fair to return to you on that point then,
yeah,
Oliver.
Gosh, I mean, I don't agree with any of that. I mean, there's something about immigration which we picked up on before. There's been some comments made, so I'll pick up on that. Immigration, when the Tories left office, was like 1 million people a year. Illegal immigration was going through the roof. It was unstoppable. They'd caught 1,000 people from the border forces, and we essentially had an open border policy. And I think to come and make it an issue now, and it clearly is an issue, right? Everybody cares about it. This is a government that's trying to act, that's getting people processed through the asylum system quicker and bringing those levels of immigration down, which is what the public want. But I don't accept this Titanic analogy at all. I think it's HMS Dreadnought, it's HMS Victory, it's sailing for Britain, and it's delivering on public services.
He's just reshuffled almost everybody in the Home Office. Is that not an admission that his policy's not really working?
No, listen, I mean, Shabana Mahmood is going to be a great Home Secretary. She's hard as nails, and I have full confidence in her ability to get this job done.
Ollie, 1,000 people came over on her first day in office. This has been the worst year for illegal migration. I don't say that at all. Labour are clearly failing when it comes to illegal migration.
Well, look, plenty of time to unpack all those issues now, but we'll turn to our second topic. And if you've been in a town centre or a main road in recent weeks, it's been hard to miss the proliferation of the Cross of St George and Union flags that now adorn many bridges, lampposts and even roundabouts. Many people argue that it's a spontaneous show of patriotism, while others suggest it has a more sinister motive and is linked to the recent rise in unrest over migrant hotels. Here's a couple of views from people across our region.
We want to see them flying. We want it to be done properly and responsibly, especially when they are being put on public places. But it's about making sure that it's done in a responsible manner, and it's not done to as a political statement or to try to cause any divisions.
And then when I was driving back up the motorway, I noticed lots and lots of flags on the motorway bridges, St George's Crosses, Union Jacks and Reform flags. And I started to feel quite intimidated because I felt like these flags were being repurposed.
So, Mark, first of all, how does this look from Stockport? What are your thoughts on it?
So I think the Union Jack or the Union flag, it's a symbol of unity for our country. It's a flag for us all, and I think it's really important that we don't let it become a divisive symbol from the far right. Certainly not how I see the flag. I couldn't agree with the comments made by the council leader more. Really, that it's about ensuring that where these are appearing, it's done in a responsible way, common sense. I think if you want to fly a flag, fly it from your home with pride. But it's an interesting thing that we're seeing. I think that patriotism displays itself in many different ways, from those people that might choose to wave a flag, or those that might choose to pick up a litter picker and volunteer in their local park. The love of country isn't anything to be ashamed of.
Sean, we usually see lots of flags when we've just won a sporting match, for instance, or a Royal Jubilee. Why do you think it's happening now?
I think that people are beginning to feel a lot more patriotic. Obviously, like we've mentioned, immigration is becoming a more prominent issue and people are feeling a lot more in their communities. But I think it's just nice to see a bit of pride in Britain, a bit of pride in England, really. And I love it. I love walking down the street, seeing the St George's Cross, seeing these English flags, the UK flags. It is just makes you feel, I think, quite warm inside and quite proud to be British, really.
We've seen the government, all of us, suddenly put a big focus on tackling border security. Does that mean that they've treated flags as basically a political point they've had to respond to?
No, I mean, to be fair, I've had a Labour Party membership card for 15 years, aside from the 6 months just gone, and it's got a big Union Jack on the back of it. I'm patriotic, progressive, and I think it's a fine thing. I'm quite relaxed about it. I've had a few emails from residents saying that they think some of them might look a bit tatty in a couple of weeks, which remains to be seen, and that's a question for councils, but I'm fairly relaxed about it. I think Councillor Afrasiab made a reasonable point.
Well, there have been some instances, unfortunately, of the flag being used to target businesses and communities. Let's listen now to the view from a mosque on the Wirral.
It's been quite a tense period where we've seen the Union Jack and St George's Cross being weaponised to target and perhaps alienate certain communities. And what we had a few days back was somebody before sunrise, about 5 o'clock in the morning, came with a hood on and tied to our railings outside the Union Jack. And I think the intention was to make us feel intimidated or unwelcome. But we had a conversation between ourselves and we thought, you know, actually the best response that we can give is to show that, you know, this is our flag, this is our symbol, and our claim to the Union Jack and being British is as equal as anybody's.
So, Sean, we've heard Kenny Badenoch call out councils for removing the flags, but do you think politicians have to do more to also call out those who are trying to weaponise them?
We will never know the intentions of some people in this situation with hanging that flag. I think that we shouldn't be calling out anyone who wants to hang the flag and feel proud of their country and their community. So I think it really depends on the person, the situation there. But in general, hang the flag as much as you can, wave it proud and wave it clear.
What are your take on this? Because it has put some councils in a bit of an awkward position, has it? No one wants to be seen taking down a flag.
So I think when it comes to the flag, that in the VT there, how the mosque reacted to that incident, I think is exceptional, and I couldn't agree more that the flag is for us all. It does raise challenges where flags appear in places that aren't safe, and it is the council's job to ensure that our crossings are safe, our motorways are safe, our bridges are safe. But my encouragement would always be fly the flag at home and show pride in the ways that you want to within your community. It's good to have a sense of community pride.
Oliver, Keir Starmer said he is very encouraging of flags. He has one in his Downing Street flat. But do you think that he has been tiptoeing around perhaps some of the more sinister motives as well?
No, I mean, there will always be people out there, right, that want to wrap themselves in the flag and be a bit plastic patriot and sort of try and use it for sinister means, right? I don't think the majority of people are doing this, but I agree with the points that have just been made. This flag represents me as much as it represents those people in that mosque. It represents people in Daneshouse as much as it represents people in Hapton in my constituency. I'm quite proud of it. But even when my family came over on the boat from Dublin 2 or 3 generations ago, you'd have still had people saying, you know, put the flag in their face and tell them, you know, what we think of them. And ultimately, I'm British, we're all British, and we feel quite proud of it. I'm no problem with it at all.
Is it true that the St George's flag seems to be treated quite differently compared to the Welsh or Scottish, for instance? The Union Jack seems to be less politically loaded almost. Do you think that is changing?
No, do you know what? I love castles, and in Cheshire we've got loads of castles that wave the St George's flag on it. I don't think there's anything overtly political about it, apart from the fact that it brings people together. I mean, look at the three of us right now. We come from different political parties, but we're in full agreement that seeing the flag, waving the flag, it's a fantastic thing, and we all feel quite proud about it.
Oh, a nice moment to end on there, I think. Let's move on to our final topic now, because as the North West school children returned to the classroom last week, so too did the political debate about the role that smartphones and social media play in their young lives. The mother of the murdered teenager, Brianna Ghey, has now launched a campaign in Parliament calling on the government to bring in a new law to ban mobile phones in schools. Esther says her daughter's mobile phone addiction left her vulnerable to the attack that ended her life, and she's calling on politicians to provide all children with a phone-free education.
So I would have phone calls from the school around Brianna's behaviour with the phone. She would be excluded because of her behaviour with the phone. And during the time that Brianna was there, which is like 3 years, there were 120 safeguarding issues around Brianna's phone use, which ranged from Brianna being at risk of child sexual exploitation to her accessing harmful content. For me as a parent, I felt really helpless, so I didn't know how I could control Brianna's phone use in school. Like, I was struggling to control it at home.
Do you think it would have made a difference in what happened to Brianna if she hadn't had access to her phone in school?
Yeah, I really do. I think that it would have prevented her from being excluded. It would have prevented her from getting into so much trouble. And yeah, I think it would have made her a lot less vulnerable and at risk of what happened to her.
Well, Esther has already been working with Brianna's old school in Warrington, where they provide lockable pouches for pupils to keep their phones in during the school day. The head teacher says in just 1 year, their attendance, behaviour and GCSE results have all improved. So, Mark, some big successes there. What do you think of the idea to change the law?
So I think our young people are crying out for some action in tackling the addictive nature of mobile phones. I think we're hearing that. I think as Liberal Democrats, we'd like to see the government tackling the big companies, the big social media companies, with regard to tackling the release of people's data. Our phones are tracking everything that we do and pushing algorithms our way. That's fine as adults because we're consenting, but for our young people, our children in schools, for that to be the case, I think is wrong. So I think that's where government could really make a difference. Actually, is standing up to some of these big tech giants.
Sean, the Conservatives issued guidelines to schools on mobile phone use, but do you think that they should have gone further and actually changed the law?
Well, the reality of where we are right now is that 9 out of 10 11-year-olds have a phone, and it just shows the amount of pressure that's on parents right now. So yes, the Conservatives in governments did issue guidelines, and actually what we've done since being in opposition is one step further, and we propose an amendment to the education bill to fully ban phones in schools and make that guidance absolutely unequivocal. It was just disappointing that the Labour Party voted against that proposal, so that things that Esther is saying, really important things, we're just putting politics ahead of that, and that should not be the case at all.
Oliver, the government says at the moment that a change in the law isn't necessary because schools can set their own rules.
Correct.
Are they right?
Yeah, I mean, that is true. It's a massive. I have a massive amount of sympathy with Esther and other parents that are in this situation. I think everybody's raised stories, and we'll have constituents that have felt that their children are overexposed to this very addictive short-form content that they've seen on the phones, right? But I think doing things like the Online Safety Act is combating not only that content, but actually how people access that content. It's a little bit like the conversation around films 20, 30 years ago. You can regulate the entire industry in terms of saying, well, you shouldn't have a phone in the first place, or you can talk about how people access that. And I think actually things like people taking their information from YouTube and changing sort of media narratives has more of an impact than just saying to children, stay off your phone in the day. If the schools want to take
you don't think it would
though,
make a big difference to children in schools if they didn't have access to their phones?
It clearly has, right? I think these schools that are doing it, Warrington, great. If they want to do bags and kind of take them off kids in the day, I think it's a fine idea, but it's a matter for schools ultimately. I think if we believe seriously in devolution and parental control and accountability, then we've got to leave it to schools to do.
Those pouches we saw cost about £25 each. If you take that approach, is there not a risk that you end up with a bit of a postcode lottery where wealthy areas have money for these kind of measures and more deprived schools don't?
Well, we're increasing school budgets, which I think is leaving them with more flexibility in what they're going to do in terms of how they educate those children. But I think doing things, as I say, like the Online Safety Act, making the online space safer for children and bringing out things like CSE and horrible sort of hate speech online will do more than just having a problem with the hardware. I think it's about what's going on online and how you better regulate that space, and that's why we've passed the Online Safety Act.
Sean, how are you feeling about the landscape of this at the moment? Because those addictions effectively haven't gone anywhere, have they?
That's absolutely right, and I'm a new father myself. I'm also a school chair of governors, and I completely empathise with the parents who are having to tackle this completely new technological landscape. There are new types of social media. We're seeing cameras, we're seeing location being used a lot more. Do these things pose a risk? I think potentially they do. But what's really important is that we empower schools to take these strong decisions that need to be made. And also, I do think we need a full, strict phone ban within schools. But at the same time, I do agree with Ollie that we need to give schools the opportunity to make the localised decisions themselves as well.
Mark, of course, you're not going to disagree with more powers to local areas, are you? But what are your thoughts on the role that politicians should play instead of parents in this?
So I think, as Ollie said, education is a big part of this, and I think for us as politicians, enabling our teachers to be able to teach and teach the skills that are needed to be able to deal with this relatively new phenomenon of social media. We have age-appropriate sex education within our schools, throughout school. I would argue we need the same kind of thing when it comes to tackling the critical thinking, absolutely, so that those young people that are growing up are able to look at what we're saying on shows like this and critically analyse what it is that we say, rather than just taking everything that they see at face value that they do on their phones.
I think that's very fair. Yeah.
And then just briefly, if I could hear from each of you, do you feel that you have a bit of a mobile phone addiction?
I wouldn't say addiction. I try to get off it probably once a day, and then when I'm on holiday, I have a little blocker app that switches it off, because sometimes you need to get away.
What about yourself?
I'm dreadful. I can't put my phone down. My wife tells me off all the time.
And what about yourself, Sean? How has maybe new parenthood affected your mobile phone
Well,
use?
it's certainly restricted my phone usage, but still I'm awful. I'm always scrolling, always on YouTube as well, and I'm not very good for it at all.
So teenagers should not look to politicians for examples in this sphere, I'm guessing. Thank you all very much for your thoughts, and we will have to leave it there because that's our time for tonight. My thanks to Oliver Ryan, Mark Roberts and Sean Houlston for joining me. But if you'd like to catch up on a bit more, you'll find all of last season's political debates on our website. That's itv.com/Granada, or of course you can find it on ITVX. We'll be back in October with a full look ahead to the autumn budget and of course all the gossip from party conference season. For now though, thank you very much for watching and good night.